About 6 years ago is when I came up with the idea for Itheum. And the idea was very simple: create a platform for people to take ownership of their data. And this was not Web3, this was just Web2, right? But unfortunately, in the Web2 world, the idea of you owning your data is frowned upon by pretty much everybody, because that's where all the money is, right? So why would businesses agree to do this?
We have all struggled with our data being captured by multiple apps who then use their data to customize the offerings and ads for us, and in other ways that we may not be even aware of. Thus, the ever-increasing and growing need to own and control the data in your own hands. This is where Itheum enters. It is the first decentralized cross-chain data brokerage platform built on the Elrond Network, and it aims to give users the power to own, control, and monetize their personal and social data. To talk about the great work being done by Itheum, we have Mark Paul with us today. Mark is the founder and CEO of Itheum. He has had a rich 20 years of experience in large-scale software development and delivery. He's now driven to solve real-world issues and give back ownership of data to the people themselves. We are pleased to have you with us today, Mark. Welcome to CuratedX, and really look forward to an enriching conversation.
Thank you. Great to be here. And thanks for that wonderful intro. You really covered the problem area pretty well and where Itheum fits in. So looking forward to this conversation.
Absolutely. Thank you. So Mark, to commence things, I'd first like to understand your journey into Web3. Where did the idea of exploring something like Itheum come to you? And just curious, why did you name it as Ethio?
Yeah, sure. So my journey in tech first, let's talk about that. So I've been in tech for about 20 years, traditional tech. Started my career working with MSN, where I used to work on MSN Messenger and all of these old school products. It's like 10 years ago. I then progressed into more of a data technology role. I worked in startups that were looking at large data sets like DNA data sets. But then I moved into the government health tech space. Here in Australia, I'm based in Australia. And this is kind of where I saw like the real issue of data silos just everywhere, and no one talking to each other. And what really troubled me the most was the data actually, it's the individual's data, right? And this is especially true in health, where the fact that the data is not shared means it's a difference between, life and death, effectively. So this is very troubling to me. But anyway, about 6 years ago is when I came up with the idea for Itheum. And the idea was very simple: create a platform for people to take ownership of their data. And this was not Web3, this was just Web2, right? But unfortunately, in the Web2 world, the idea of you owning your data is frowned upon by pretty much everybody, because that's where all the money is, right? So why would businesses agree to do this? So this was an idea that I was working on in different sort of iterations. Around 2017 is when I first got exposed to crypto. This was initially to Bitcoin, which I loved. And then I think my mind was literally blown away when I saw Ethereum for the first time. Because I'm a very technical guy. And when I saw what Ethereum was trying to build, this world computer, just from a technology point of view, I was sucked in, and I got obsessed with Ethereum and pretty much every project that came on Ethereum since then on EVM chains. I followed the DeFi craze. I followed the NFT craze, the layer 1, layer 2, layer 0 craze, everything, right? Just from a technology point of view. I'm not a very good crypto investor. In fact, I'm pretty horrible at it, but I am just obsessed with the technology. So anyway, my love for Web3 and technology, and then my love to solve this problem of data ownership merged about 8 months ago, when I realized that the best way to solve data ownership is effectively bringing it into Web3 land and using all the tools that blockchain gives us. And yeah, so I built a proof of concept on how you could do peer-to-peer trading of data. We took part in a hackathon. We came second in that hackathon. It was sponsored by some big blockchains. But since then, we won like 3 hackathons, like back-to-back: Filecoin, Hedera, we caught the attention of a few investors and the Elrond blockchain, and they invested in us, and we launched our token through Elrond. And yeah, now Itheum's a Web3 reality.
Lovely. Very, very fascinating. So I just want to circle back and ask on my curiosity, why that specific name of Ethio?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry, I missed that. It has a very good story, actually. So 6 years ago, the problem, like I said, that was troubling me the most was health data being locked up in different silos. So Etheum's first version was, we narrowed down into one area, which was cardiovascular health, because we felt like this is something that people really need to solve. And we built an app that collects cardiovascular health directly from a person when they're at home, like their blood pressure, their moods, everything that could impact their cardiovascular health. And the first version of Itheum was a cardiovascular health app. And Itheum is heart in my native language. So that's where the name came from.
Lovely. That's very fascinating. And how you brought the two worlds together, figuring out, okay, Web3 and the problem of data, which is core that you are going to solve, and bringing the two worlds together into something like Ethio, which is doing a great job. I think that it's very important to find that gap, that, okay, this is what is still missing in this space, and this is what we really need to build on. Coming up with that conviction, that really goes a long way. So just picking up on the point that you mentioned with regards to the Elrond network as well, right? The infra layer to build on, I think, is a crucial aspect when it comes to scaling and growing in the future. And with the number of layer ones coming up, working on the blockchain trilemma, it is important to pick that one which fits the protocol the best. So on those lines, if you can tell us why and how did you zero down on the Elrond network?
Yeah, so the first version of Ethereum we built, in fact, was on it was a multi EVM chain protocol, so you could trade data in. So we released Ethereum, testnets, Polygon, BSC, all of these, even the small EVM chains that were actually natively not EVM, but they had like EVM compatibility, right? Avalanche was one we launched in as well. But then what was troubling me the most was, I looked at what Ethereum could become, right? And Ethereum was the vision of Ethereum is to be the data protocol for the open metaverse, right? So this is a very ambitious vision. And if we would, and we will believe that it's going to happen, you need extremely high transaction capability. You need the layer one to scale according to what we're trying to do. And cost should never be an issue to a person trying to buy or trade data, right? So Elrond has the most negligible cost when it comes to gas. It's very stable. It's got a really interesting adaptive state sharding mechanism. So basically, the more load that comes in, you can shard more. We found it to be a very distributed network. But what really kind of got us hooked was when we were introduced to the Elrond team, and we were immediately connected to the core team. Right now, can you imagine a project that is not even launched talking to a core team? Like, that never happens in any other chain, right? And the reason they spoke to us was, of course, thanks to our investor who's very connected with Elrond. But also Elrond had a very good vision. They knew what are the big pieces to put together to enable Web3, and data was something they were passionate about. So they spoke to us. And when we spoke to the Elrond team, that was the first time I spoke to somebody personally, somebody my same age, right? Like the guy I was talking to is, a guy who's quite mature, and we had a great conversation. And then we thought, okay, these guys are serious. We are serious. We're not a project that's launching an NFT collection and then going to disappear. We're here for the next 50 years, and we wanted to be with a blockchain that's going to be here for the next 50 years. So that's Elrond. It's a cultural fit, a technology fit, and a vision fit.
Absolutely. And I think it is imperative to evaluate any blockchain from different angles, like you said, right? The culture of the community behind it, of the people or the founders behind it, the team working hard, and what are you wanting to get out of them? It's, I think, when the two worlds meet, that is the crux of the matter, which is very important in order to take that decision forward. So taking on from there, growing with the community, I think, is also at the forefront of advancing in the Web3 ecosystem, and specifically in your business. I believe relationships and partnerships would hold a lot of significance. So talking about the recent update that I went through, if you can tell us a bit about Itheum's recent partnership with ZoidPay and how does it benefit Itheum in the long run?
Yeah, so the other good part about Elrond that we love is that they have the most fanatical community, right? And we've been so embraced by their community, who have now become our community. And as soon as we launched in Elrond, like almost every project in Elrond, we just immediately just work together. ZoidPay being one, right? So ZoidPay, personally, we love that team, and what they're doing is really cool, right? Like, I don't know if you've use ZoidPay, but it's only available, I think, in EU at the moment. But it's a browser plugin, and you put your tokens in, and it gives you a Visa card, and you can shop anything. Yeah. And it supports the Itheum token as well. So what we're doing with them is, so Itheum, it has effectively three components, and I'll explain this to explain the ZoidPay partnership. The first component is we have what we call the data CAT. CAT stands for Collection and Analytics Toolkit. This is just adapters that bring in personal data into Web3. The second component is when you can go into our data DEX and claim ownership of this data, mint it as a data NFT and various other tokenized products, which is basically a license to use your data. And then you can peer-to-peer trade it. And the third component is where your reputation and identity come into play. Because remember, we're building the protocol for the open metaverse. So you need to have a version of you in the metaverse, right? And that's most interesting component, which is called the data metaverse. Now, ZoidPay has a very rich use case, right? Because they are enabling crypto-based e-commerce in the metaverse. That's the ultimate goal. And we fit straight into that, right? Because if you're in the metaverse and you want personalized shopping without somebody stealing your data, the only way to do it is to use something like Itheum that lets you take your data in, you take ownership of it, and then you consent to giving it shared in the metaverse. So with ZoidPay, we are enabling a personalized e-commerce in the metaverse through our protocol, our data protocol embedded into their protocol.
Great. I think, with this, I think that there are many more such applications similar to ZoidPay who need this specific data integration or ensuring that, yes, data stays in the hands of the users themselves. And I'm sure that there are definitely going to be a lot more such partnerships coming the way for Itheum as well. So probably taking the step ahead from there and considering what's happening in the markets for a couple of months now. So this bear market has come as a challenging force for a number of Web3 participants, but I think these times push one to take a step back and reflect on what stands the test of time. So if you can highlight, how does the road ahead for Itheum look like, and what are some of the milestones yet to be unlocked for Itheum?
Yeah, so Itheum, I mean, bear market or not, we're just going to build. And I mean, if you've been in crypto long enough, like I've been here for a few years now, that's at least 3 or 4 of these I've seen. This is the first time I'm seeing it from a project perspective. I'm usually on the other side looking at projects. But to us, it's the best time to build because right now we're not getting artificial pressure, right? Like usually if it's a bull market, everyone's only worried. Caring about one thing, profits, right? Which we're not, that's not something, we're building something that's going to benefit humanity, right? So the vision for us, we have a very clear focus on what we're going to work on and how we're going to get to market. And we're focusing on 2 industries. So firstly, Itheum is a horizontal platform. So basically you can plug any vertical into it, right? But the vertical that we are most excited about is gaming, and specifically Web3 gaming. So the first product we've actually launched in alpha already is called the Gamer Passport. That's basically enables gamers to own, Web3 gamers to own their data as they move between guilds and then share it and earn some additional revenue by sharing their data. This is already launched in alpha, which basically means we are whitelisted 100 Web3 gamers to mint the NFMeID Gamer Passport and then trade their data. We're partnered with the Polka Starter Gaming Guild, 3 other gaming guilds, 2 going to be announced in the next few days of a week at least. So what we're doing with gaming is to demonstrate this actually working, right? And gaming is the only industry where you can take something totally opposite to the way you normally do things and they'll embrace it. At the same time, we work a lot with health because like I mentioned, it's a very personal thing to me. And in probably the next month, we're going to announce like a really cool health partnership. This is a company in Europe, and we're effectively going to help them build a metaverse health clinic and using the ability to take your data in. Now, if you look at it, we're working on gaming and then health, right? Literally the opposite end of the spectrum. Because health is heavily regulated and everything, gaming is not. But this is our strategy. Our strategy is to work on two ends of the spectrum. Gaming will move very fast, health a bit slower. And as we go with this, all the middle verticals will just fill in, right? Retail, and DeFi, finance, everything would fill in at the middle. So yeah, so in terms of roadmap, our roadmap's public. We're going to go to Elrond mainnet in a couple of weeks' time, which is our first component of the data decks. We're launching NFMID avatars within the next probably the next couple of months. Most of it's already built. We're just waiting for the right time to launch it. But yeah, we're very clear about how we're going to go to market.
And that is very exciting. I think how you, there are two different aspects to it, but you've chosen these two, keeping in mind, okay, one is going to scale very fast, but the other one, which is very close to your heart in terms of health, it's interesting how you pick up two very different paths, and then you're trying to take those forward as well. So just, I think as a follow-up from this is itself, there are so many projects being built on solving a number of such real-world use cases, healthcare being one of them, and adding value to the ecosystem. So if I ask you maybe 3 other Web3 projects that you're bullish on, definitely apart from Itheum, then which one would those be and why? Just not as a financial advice, but just want to know your opinion.
Yeah, so like I said, I'm probably the last person you should take any financial advice from because I'm just horrible at it. And the projects that I'm interested on are projects that are, well, historically, let's say, I really like projects like Chainlink, obviously because they are oracles bringing real world data into the blockchain. I'm all about like trying to connect Web3 with Web2. Because I think that's where it is, right? Like that's the secret. That's when everything will flip. Absolutely. Right. So Chainlink is something I'm very interested in. I mean, from a layer one, I'm probably more interested in layer ones and those kind of frameworks. So Elrond, obviously, the project that I'm kind of very interested in now is the Lens protocol. And I don't know if you're familiar with the Lens protocol, you probably are. I like what they're trying to achieve. And I spent a lot of time looking at it and how they're building a decent like social network on Web3, how they're using NFTs, how they do layered NFTs. But I am very, very passionate about soulbound, right? Soulbound NFTs. And I believe this is also one of those pivotal points when you start bringing in not your entire identity, but some form of soul-bound identity on chain, where we can then start moving from all these scams that you see to a little bit more, something a bit more predictable, something a bit more like value. I feel like it will bring more value to Web3. So I mean, Etheum's effectively, we're trying to build soulbound as well, like our NFMID soulbound. So Lens protocol is something I like, but yeah, I don't really follow all the other stuff. Like, I'm not a big NFT guy and stuff like that, unless of course the NFTs are doing cool things like, well, I like the sandbox as well. I've been a big fan of them. I like what they're trying to do with interoperability of avatars, because we're looking at that as well. And I believe one of the iterations is you can take an NFT collection and that could effectively be rendered onto a 3D avatar that could walk around. So I like these kind of sort of ideas as well. So yeah, sandbox, the Lens protocol, and traditional L1s and oracles are my interest area.
Lovely. And just to add on to that, I think the integration, how this is happening with regards to bringing together maybe NFTs, metaverse, gaming, all of the different aspects under one umbrella is also something which is going to be interesting to see. And definitely, I think soulbound NFTs, the non-transferability makes it very, very core to how we take things forward and how we really attach that value and that ownership to NFTs as well, which is also going to be very interesting. Just to take that one step ahead, and because you are so much into a tech background, I want to understand from you maybe what would be that one different technological innovation or some other different kind of a use case that you foresee being solved using the blockchain technology in the coming few years?
That's a really good question, right? So if you look at blockchain, right, what did it first do? It first enabled you to own your financial assets, which you never did, right? Prior to Bitcoin. Bitcoin just literally brought this whole concept in. And then, Ethereum came on board, and then we started seeing DeFi and in all its wonder, right? And then we saw NFTs come in and people owning, a non-fungible thing, right? Something that's unique to them. Now we're in that phase where people are like, okay, I can see all these building blocks and I know what this can become. But there's one big problem: the amount of scams, the amount of bots, the amount of all of this stuff that's happening. And that's because of the absolute ability to be a pseudonymous, right? Like you can spin up a wallet, do something bad, and just disappear.
Right.
This is where I feel this area needs to be solved. And I think soulbound is where this comes in. And not soulbound as you get an NFT and hold it, but I think what Vitalik was talking about was DSOC, right? Decentralized society, if I'm not mistaken. Mm-hmm. And this is basically attaching some sort of reputation to your wallet. Rather than it being this thing you just do something and throw it away. Now you have to earn some reputation into your wallet before you can do things. And when you start doing this, you start getting attached, or you have something to lose before you do something bad. And I think this brings in a little bit more trust, trust as in like decentralized trust. And this enables a crazy amount of things to happen, because now you can do things like much more advanced DeFi. Under collateralized loans being one, right? Like you can actually take your credit history as a claim into your soulbound wallet, and then so this is what even Itheum enables, right? You'll be able to take some personal data as a claim into your soulbound wallet and then unlock amazing personalized financial products. And so this is the pivotal point. That's one. The second is getting away from the current wallet technology, which is just too technical. No one's going to use MetaMask to do anything, as much as I love MetaMask. So I'm very interested in projects like Web3 Auth, which effectively you log in with your Google, it generates a wallet for you behind the scenes, and it's a predictable wallet. It's a decentralized way of doing it. I think this is it. The point when you log in with your email or something else, and it generates a reputation with a soulbound identity. Now you're in Web3, because now it's limitless what you can do.
Yeah. And that definitely, I think, solves for a lot of the complexities in the process as well. If we're looking to onboard the next billion users to Web3, we need to take a step back and solve for these basic problems. Why there's so many hacks happening? Yes, hacks are not new to Web3, they have been happening, but what can we do that extra bit, or what can we solve for so that it's easier for people to be onboarded? And as you rightly said, so many wallets, connecting to those wallets, linking your application, and then going ahead and transacting. How can we further simplify this? And I think those two things that you mentioned are really bang on how can we simplify these complexities further. So just one last bit before we wrap up. There are so many projects, or let's say apart from projects, there's also a lot of influx of talent which is happening in Web3. And I still feel that there's still a lot more potential to get more minds working on growing this ecosystem. So what advice would you like to give to new entrants in this space, venturing maybe into crypto jobs as real retail investors, or maybe even as builders?
Yeah, so there's two parts to this. First is, I guess, people who see the value of decentralized technology, right? I think maybe you fit in this category. You discovered one day, okay, this thing is cool. I have to do something here. Now, at that point, you can decide what you want to do, right? In Web3, there's a very big marketing scene. Every project is heavily marketed, so you can so many opportunities in marketing. The other very interesting part in Web3 is community, right? It's every project has such an amazing community. So if you're into like, socially into like setting up communities, there's so much of opportunity here, running Discords. Like our community team is so cool, like, and it's so wonderful to work with the community every day. But if you are tech, right? And then at this point, this is when you should say, listen, am I going to go and work with Web2 where there is, 10,000 people doing the same thing I'm doing? Or am I going to like learn some new skills and do Web3 where there's maybe 10 people, right? So, and it's very clear that the future is Web3. You cannot deny it, right? This is the shift. So that's the first thing I want people to like kind of look at their focus area, but understand that ultimately you're in Web3 and just get in, do what you're doing, which is educating people. I think this is very valuable. And lastly, it's something I really want to see more women in Web3. Like this is something I find a bit unusual because in my day job, in my 20 years, I've worked heavily with a lot of women engineers, women team members, but then I come to Web3 and there's no women technical people. And I think, how do we bring more women into the tech space of Web3? I think that's very important. So I don't know, maybe this is something you can work on maybe with us to bring on more people in.
Absolutely. And I think those three are very, very key to the success of the ecosystem, and for a lot of people also to figure out, okay, this is the space that looks like the future and this is where we need to get into as well. With that, I'd really like to thank you for spending this time with us and sharing some very useful key insights on Itheum and the Web3 world. Itheum is truly focused in transitioning from a phase where today your data is being taken away from you to the future where your data really belongs to you. With the goal set to enable personal data sovereignty and unlocking data for social good, we're sure Itheum is going to give the much needed ownership back. And we wish you as well as the team all the very best for the continued success of the project. Thank you once again, Mark, for being a part of CuratedX. And it was really very nice time talking to you.
Thank you for having me, and thank you, everybody. And I hope you enjoy Web3.